Hello, welcome to another wine tasting with Vinosseur. Tonight we're going to taste a wine from an area that is more traditionally known for Riesling. In fact, my favorite Rieslings tend to come from Germany, and tonight we're going to taste a Pinot Noir from Germany. And I'm usually very traditional with my wine selections, but I see a lot more exposure in Germany to Pinot Noir vineyards, and in my experience, the ones I've tasted, especially towards the top end, have been quite good. Good concentration of fruit, perhaps a bit too much oak for my palate, but I think due to the fact that these are high quality, they can improve with some age, and the oak will soften a bit and become more round as the wines mature. Tonight we're going to taste, as I mentioned, Pinot Noir. In Germany it's called Spatburgunder. You can see there, produced by one of my favorite winemakers in Germany, Georg Breuer. Georg Breuer can be found in the Rheingau in Germany. The style of wines that typically come from the Rheingau tend to be much drier than, let's say, wines that come from the Mosel. If you have the opportunity to seek out Georg Breuer's wines, and especially if you find something like his Berg Schlossberg, fantastic wine, reasonably priced for what it is. To me, that's one of the Grand Crus of Germany for sure. So I have not tried his Spatburgunder. I've tasted some Pinot Noirs from producers like Vinosseur and Berkton Wolf, and they've been pretty good. So I'm looking forward to tasting this. This is reasonably priced. I paid about $30 equivalent for it. In Norway, it's about 170 kroners, I believe. Has a twist off, so let's go ahead and twist that off. Even though there's no cork, I always smell the wine to make sure there aren't any flaws, because even though you don't find corked wines when there's a twist off, you can still find some faults with the wine. And this had a normal bouquet. I'm going to use a bigger glass, as you see. Pinot Noirs, Burgundies, white Burgundy, Chardonnay, for example, and Nebbiolo from Piemonte, Barolo and Barbaresco, for example. They prefer larger glasses. They're quite aromatic grapes, and this tends to get the aromas focused to a particular part of the mouth when you drink. So they're quite suited to Pinot Noir. Of course, it comes as no surprise that it's quite light in color, as Pinot Noir should be. If they're dark, they've probably had too much extraction, and could be quite modern. So yeah, you can see through it. So beautiful color, exactly what I'd expect. So give it a little air. I find that with screw caps you can get some volatile sulfur compounds. I may have mentioned this in a previous video. We call that reduction in today's language. Simply means that there's a lack of oxygen. The sulfur then eats up what little oxygen was in there at bottling, and you get a little bit of, you get interesting smells. They can range from garlic to an onion smell, or even rubber, some people say. It can also be a good thing. These volatile sulfur compounds in the Sauvignon Blanc can lead to some of those aromas we're familiar with when we smell a Sauvignon Blanc. For example, the cap pis, the gooseberries, and also in Riesling, that minerality, that petroleum that we get on a Riesling can also be attributed possibly to these volatile sulfur compounds. Let's give this a smell. You do get the smell of oak. It's actually not as bad as I expected. It is aged in barriques, this particular wine. I expected a lot more oak on the nose. It's there, but it's not terrible. But shining through, you get some cherries, some of the darker cherries, the morel cherries. I get raspberry. Slight barnyard smell. Pretty typical Pinot Noir smell. Little burn on the nostrils from the alcohol. It's only 13% alcohol, but I feel it on the nose. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be integrated when I taste it. Let's give this a taste. Pretty good acidity. Good acidity, raspberries. Again, the cherries are coming through. The alcohol is not, it's not so terribly bad. I think in a couple of years it would soften a bit, but it's not, it's pretty well integrated as it is. The oak is there, unfortunately. I think compared to many people's palates, this would not bother them. I'm quite sensitive to wines with oak, and it's creating this dry sensation in the mouth. Some people would think those are tannins, and they are tannins, but these are oak tannins, and definitely not fruit tannins. Tend to get them more up around the gums and the back of the throat. But the oak wasn't a bother here. I think this wine could use probably some air, maybe decanting an hour before would be helpful. And you know, with red wines, I like to throw them into the refrigerator 30 minutes before I drink them. We tend to drink red wines too warm. On the other side of the coin, we tend to drink white wines way too cold. And I prefer those not quite room temperature, but I prefer white wines to hover around, I don't know, 58, 60 degrees, maybe even 62 degrees, depends on the wine. But I like my red wines, especially Pinot Noir, a bit cooler. So this is probably around 58, 60 degrees right now. It's a bit of a spice going on as well. I don't want to say it's rosemary, maybe sage. It's a more mild spice. Would have been happier with a bit more fruit. I find that the acid in the oak is slightly overpowering the fruit. Keep in mind, this is quite a light wine. It's not, I would say, yeah, light to medium bodied, and that's okay. I tend to like light wines that are fresh, especially with the red fruits I get here, the raspberries and the cherries. But I would prefer a little bit more of a pinpoint on the fruit, a little more focus on the fruit. I find it goes right away into the acidity and into the tannins from the oak. So I find it maybe a bit out of balance at this point. It's definitely a great effort. I think it's a great wine. It's not a wine I would hesitate buying again. But I would have preferred a bit more of the cherry on the front of the tongue. I think this is going to be great for tonight. I'm having some friends over for what we're calling our gourmet pizza evening. So I'm going to create a pizza tonight with figs, fennel, little manchego cheese, some dried cranberries, and top it off with some duck breast. I think that should be quite good with this wine, so we'll give that a whirl later and see how that works out. Thank you for tuning in, and look forward to the next tasting with you. Bye-bye.